Bonjour, bonjour. Unfiltered Saturday about friendships and relationship dynamics in general, and about reciprocity and about contribution. Those are the words that we used with a friend of mine a couple of days, like yesterday, the day before. And I don't know how the conversation started, but we are both at a point where we find ourselves having zero tolerance for anything. I think this is how it started because we both have been evicted from our place. And me a year ago, her a month ago or so. So she's enjoying the perks of her apartment for this last month. And so we started talking, and she's also been traveling for almost 8 months. And so she comes back to this sort of situation, and you're like, what the actual fuck? And I wouldn't say, I don't want to say I'm over 2025 or I'm still digesting. I don't really like this word, but I'm still I think I said it in one of the episodes where I'm taking 2025 as a reference point towards each and every month of this year, because every month last year has been marked by an event. That my dad passed away in January, February we're getting evicted. March I got super sick and lost like 5-6 kilos in the span of a week. April I closed my business. What happened in May? Oh yeah, May I was in a lawsuit sort of thing that was already ongoing since September 2024. In June, I broke up with my partner and left the Netherlands. And then burnout. But every month for me is a reference point and a comparison to how it was last year and how it is this year. And my criteria are, okay, how do I feel in my body, energy wise? How am I moving? How am I being moved? And how is it any different in the sense of what actions am I taking, and what am I really doing differently? And all of this has been done and is very conscious, because since the beginning of the year I really set my ass and I was like, putain, I really don't want to go through another 2025. I really want things to change. And so how do you change? You change the identity. You just think of the person that you actually want to become. And this is something that is coming back over and over and over every fucking month, every fucking day for the past 4-5 months. And when we sat down with my friend, it was just like catching up and just genuinely asking each other, how are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? And not just like, I'm all right, I'm good, life is good, but more like, how are you genuinely feeling, and putting words against it. And obviously, when you take the time to actually ask yourself that, words come up and you can't fake. And I think just her and I have been smashed or like slapped by so many different events that you're like, okay, but why is it that I have it really felt like we were blasé. And it's a thing to say that you feel this way and kind of stay in that bubble and nurture it. And it's another thing, especially when you have those kinds of feelings, not negative feelings, but those moods where you're like, putain, vas-y, ça me saoule, I'm fucking blasé. You don't want to really stay in there, and you don't want to really overthink the whys and the hows. You are this specific way, you feel this specific way, which, by the way, a feeling, emotion only lasts 90 seconds. Can you imagine? So in your brain, it lasts 90 seconds, but we make it so that it lasts forever. And then it's just crazy to me how we really create those loops of, let me just stay in there. Let me just nurture that loop of, I don't know, overthinking or sadness or all these things, where you can just like, all right, next time I'm literally going to do it. 90 seconds on my watch. I don't have a watch, but let's just use the iPhone. And I'm going to give myself 90 seconds to just stay in this fucking anger, frustration, guilt, whatever, and then just fucking come out of it. And matter of fact, I actually did it today. I don't know if it was 90 seconds or a bit more. I would say 30 minutes, but that window is very much shorter than a day. So I'm very happy and proud of myself. But all this to say, again, you are in control of how you react to certain situations. And so we talk and talk, and we just obviously, I stayed with her a day and a half. And every time we came back to the same topics of relationships, the different dynamics that we can have with our relationships. How is it that you have dynamics with certain people where it just feels very reciprocated? Like there's a mutual level of interest, a mutual level of engagement, of commitment, of being involved in the conversation, and a mutual level of presence, of active listening, of being curious, not just and eliminating all the distraction. If I am with you, I don't have my phone on the table. I don't have my phone. My phone has been on silent mode since 2020. It's been 6 years since COVID. And I shared it in one of the episodes where it's like, I don't want to be spammed anymore. The only people I truly respond to in a very urgent way are my mom and my brother. That's it. And then my partner when we were together. But the rest, to be honest, and whomever I heard their feelings, en fait, c'est la vie. When we were younger and we had the Motorola and the Nokia, le 3310, the 3310. And when you had this subscription of what? Maybe it was 20 euros or 25 euros. And you had a certain amount of messages that you could send, a certain amount of minutes that you could use to make calls. And that was life, because each and every message was just so fucking intentional and fucking thought through. And you made sure that you really wanted to say the thing that you actually wanted to say because you knew that you had one message down. If you have 50 messages in a month, per month, you're like, all right, let me just make sure that I use one message here and not two, and make sure that really just be concise and straight to the point, because clock is ticking, number is ticking, okay? Which brings me to the topic of friendship again, which is like intentionality, reciprocation, and all these kinds of things. But we were really asking ourselves, how is it that her and I, for example, and obviously not all relationships can be this way. I mean, it would be the dream. Can it be this way? I'm really genuinely wondering, But that conversation came up because we realized how drained we were from some relationships. And obviously for us, it was like, okay, but what are we doing to be drained, to actually feel drained from these relationships? Not what are they doing that make us feel drained? Because hello, when you point fingers, remember there are 3 other fingers pointing at you. And it's that sense of, again, ownership and responsibility. And we've had that throughout the whole conversation. But basically, like, long story short, we thought, okay, so it comes down to character, because personality-wise, we're both people who are just like, we love people. Like, I genuinely love people. When I sit with them, I'm just like fascinated by the fact that I have another human being who's legit constituted like me, with a heart, with a brain, with a body, but who is able to feel things completely differently than I can feel, who is able to see the world sometimes completely differently than I see the world, who has their own opinions and who has their own values and all these kinds of things. But we come from the same clay, like we are made the same way. God made us the same way, like, limbs and everything. But we just do live, feel, see things from a completely different perspective. And for me, having that, remembering that, is already so fucking precious. So that in and of itself is like, you have my full attention, And because you as a person decided to confide in me, or to share your dreams or your visions or your pain or whatever emotions or thing you're going through, for me, it's even extra precious. C'est vraiment incroyable. So is that preciosité, preciousness of this, first of all. And second of all, it's like respect, I have respect for each and every person that I meet. Even if I feel like, okay, we're not going to be a clique or a match or anything, I'll always show respect, because that's how I've been educated, basically. You just show respect to people. Even if people disrespect you, I swear to you, I'm just going to respect you, but it's still going to be disrespect, but in a very respectful way. But anyways, so for me, these two things are already like, it's valuable. You know, it's like I again, it's very precious to me. And so then of course you have the conversations and blah blah blah, and then things go on and you share and everything. But we realize that okay, not everybody has the same personality traits, character, and obviously there is a part in us that just doesn't necessarily want to be obviously the center of attention. So it's going into our own beliefs of, okay, but if we prioritize people, what does that actually say? Where does it come from? And personally, I know that it's always been because girls in the Arab society are the ones who are like, yes, the yes girl. The put people first, forget about yourself, don't express your needs. If somebody asks you something, you're like, yeah, as you wish, or like your wish is my command, basically. That's how I've personally been raised. And funny enough, my brother and I have been raised completely differently. It's going to be for another episode, but we kind of like retraced where does that all come from. And we arrived to the point where, okay, so those are stories. Again, if you come back to that notion of emotions that last for 90 seconds, I'm starting to have a headache, so I'm just going to wear my glasses. But if you come back to this notion of 90 seconds, feeling, emotion, this is the same thing. You are raised with a story that you tell yourself or that somebody has passed on to you. You are free to change that story. You are free to believe something new. You are free to just create a new narrative. It's like a whole fucking movie. This life is a whole fucking movie. So what kind of story do you want to tell? You know, and we both realize that ultimately when you keep digging and digging and digging and you're like, but why am I like this? You know, why do I care so much? Why do I overgive? Why do I overcare? And why do I always prioritize the person in front of me? And why do I not take space within a conversation? So this was also that. Why is it not that I take space? Why do I sort of hide to make the other person more relevant, more interesting? Why do I focus so much on her, on asking questions? For me, it's personally curiosity, but maybe now I call it curiosity because I was raised into that thing of you need to prioritize others. And that me being raised this way, obviously, I believe that to be true. It's like, okay, this is a belief. This is something that is ingrained. But en fait, c'est ça, you know? But obviously, 2025 being 2025 and just slapping me left, right, and center and challenging all these fucking stories and all these fucking beliefs that have been ingrained in me, I just realize again and I notice and I observe. And we were both like, I think it just really comes down to not valuing ourselves enough, not loving ourselves enough, not seeing that we are worth something just by being. So the mere fact of asking so many questions and caring so much about people, yes, it is in our personality trait, but it's also exacerbated by this thing that we told ourselves or that people told us that basically says you are not enough if you don't help, if you don't give your time, your attention, your resources, your money, basically if you don't give your whole self in exchange of, also let's be honest, nothing, then you're not valuable. But if you do that, you're extremely valuable and people will love you and people will confide in you and you will belong and you will feel, you will feel that sense of belonging. You will, oh my God, somebody passes in front of me and then I just lose my shit. So it's that, really. So is this, again, you do this and you will get that. If you don't do this, then you don't get that. And this is this very conditional, basically, story that we just repeat to ourselves and have been repeating to ourselves. And that obviously, inherently, just trickles down into all the fucking areas of our lives, whether relationships, here because we talked about relationships and dynamics, and realize that indeed, when we are in that position, when I put myself personally in that position and I will value you more than I value myself, and I will give you more credit and more attention and more than I give to me, then obviously I will just fucking be drained and I won't take the opportunity to actually talk about myself or answer questions when people genuinely ask, how have you been doing? And obviously, there's another layer of if I'm with someone who genuinely doesn't want to know about me, fine by me. I'm not going to educate the person. I'm not going to tell them, hey, hello, I have something to say. You asked me a question. Can I just finish my point? And I'm not going to educate them like, hey, do you know that you speak a lot about yourself and you make everything about yourself? You take a lot of space. Good for them. And I think that after that conversation, I really identified three types of dynamics. The first one, where really people just come to you and dump everything on you, whereby they don't even ask how you're doing. I've had that a lot in my life where there's not even a single how are you. It's just like blah, diarrhea. In French, c'est la logorée, la diarrhée de la parole. It's like verbal diarrhea. And then dump, okay? And then you're like, okay, déjà, I haven't even asked. You just literally dumped everything on me. So let's just work on boundaries as well. And when you actually talk about something that is really interesting and exciting for you, they're just going like, trop bien, very nice. And then they just move on. These are the types of people that I genuinely now, ciao. I don't even want to be bothered. I think before 2025 and that slap in my face, I was just like, no, but it's fine. It's like, okay, but I have friends, so it's okay. But now it's more like, j'ai pas envie. I don't want to entertain that because, again, I'm starting to value myself way more than I used to be. I know my value. I know how much I give just by being very present as a human being in a conversation. And by actively listening, this is already way more than enough. Okay, just because we're human beings and we listen to each other, that's way more than enough. And if on top of that, I share my opinion, my value, my advice because you asked and I give you whatever, and you don't take that into account and you're just like, whatever, and then you don't reciprocate, allez, deuces. And then there's the type of people, it's not the type of people. I think I said three, but actually it's two, Ah oui, so these people, I think genuinely they're not really curious about you. It's really just more verbal diarrhea, monologue, and it's just very much self-awareness, self-centered, it's just a performance. And I think sometimes I feel for these people because I'm like, whoa. If you listen to these people ramble sometimes or talk, and they talk about problems at work or relationships or anything, and you just kind of see it you zoom out on it and you're like, but okay, then I understand why this and this is happening and is being repeated in all areas of your life, But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychotherapist, and I don't have time to just do that to people. Then there's the other type of people who just, can be self-aware, but tend to go to the monologue, but sometimes they just don't necessarily have the capacity to meet you where they are, okay? Which is fine. This is something that I think you can, I would say, not negotiate because you don't enter a relationship to negotiate, but I think that if you share things like, no, si, sorry, there's someone calling me and I was like, oh shit, the recording is stopped, but non, mais c'est génial, tu vois, priorities, guys. But these people, sometimes they don't have the capacity, which is fine because we're all humans and we want to see people, we want to have conversations with people, and we want to meet our friends and see how everyone is doing and everything. But sometimes it happens. I mean, life is hard. Sometimes it happens that we're just so fucking swamped and then you just want to meet, but you don't really have the capacity. In that space, I would say, fine, let's just, you talk about it. You have that capacity, you have that space to actually talk about it because the relationship you have with this person is not going to be, it's going to be okay. It's going to survive and you're going to be able to express your needs. The needs going to be heard and it's going to be fine, So I would say an example, hey, are you okay? Because I feel like I'm just talking to you about something that is very important for me. I feel like you're not really present. You're not really there. What's up? And then the person is going to be responding, self-aware. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. And then it's fine. Okay. And then you have the third category of people where I mean, the second category is not necessarily education. You wouldn't have to educate people, your friends, or whatever. But with these people, it's a very nice way to actually express your needs. Okay, so for anybody, for anybody, sorry, who is struggling with expressing their needs, okay, let alone identify their needs, this is the greatest opportunity to be audacious or actually to be courageous and say, hey, by the way, this is what I need right now. Can you provide? Yes or no? If the person says yes, perfect. If the person says no, you know where you stand. But at least that skill that you're developing of being courageous, asking, taking up space, with your voice, with what you're saying, but also with who you are as a person and with expressing your needs to people that are close to you, people that you value, people that you love is important. And I think that you can definitely do that with people who are in that second category. I still haven't found names for each category, but let's just see. It might be a theory. Can you imagine? And the third category is the people where it's like super organic. You don't even have to say anything. It's just, I don't know. There's this level of, I don't know if it's consciousness, awareness, or whatever, where the two people have this capacity to just meet, Nee, les enfants. Non, 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 non. Nee, nee. Op je plaats. Allez, kom maar, monsieur. Sorry, allez, op je plaats. Avec vos oreilles, là. Vous voyez une personne, ça y est, c'est n'importe quoi. Les petits chiens d'amour. I'm dog dutying tonight, this weekend. Anywho, third category, and this was what I was trying to figure out with my friend because we are corresponding, connecting this way. And I know I have that with a few other friends, which is like, en fait, it is possible. And this is what I want. And this is what I deserve, So I don't know what makes it that, you find your people this way. And yeah. So anywho, this was my takeaway from reciprocity, connection, involvement, engagement, contribution. C'est ça en fait. The third level, the third layer of people where you have that kind of connection with someone is because you're like, okay, I want to contribute. I'm not just here to take or to gain or to give my insights or to show that I'm smart or intellectual or that I want to save or anything. It's just like, sorry, you genuinely, oh la quiche, elle était dégueulasse. You genuinely want to contribute to that relationship. You genuinely want to see it grow. You're like, oh my God, again, coming back to that notion of it's so fucking precious to have another human being in front of me who's like me, but who's completely different than me. It's like, okay, how can we just keep on learning from each other and growing with one another and seeing ourselves evolve, but also see the other person evolve, see the relationship evolve. And I really, again, found that moment that I've had with this person, with this friend of mine, very, very precious. And voila. I know it started out with zero tolerance and everything, and then it ended up talking about friendships and dynamics. But as you know, this is the whole purpose of Sabou. Allez, bisous les enfants.